In the world of intelligence, there are secrets. And then there are the kinds of secrets that shape entire nations, topple governments, and rewrite the course of history without leaving a fingerprint behind. Today, you and I are stepping into the shadows of the most powerful intelligence agency on Earth, an organization whose influence stretches across continents, conflicts, and decades, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. What you think you know about them is barely the surface. Behind the official stories, behind the Hollywood image of suave spies and high-tech gadgets, lies a labyrinth of covert operations, black budget programs, psychological warfare, and geopolitical manipulation so complex that even world leaders rarely know the full picture. And as we peel back these layers, I want you to pay attention. Because understanding the CIA isn't just learning about history. It's understanding how today's global power structure was built, how wars began, how regimes collapsed, and how invisible hands continue to shape the world long before the public ever realizes it. So before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button so you never miss these high-level geopolitical breakdowns. And the OSS, the wartime predecessor of the CIA, had given the US a taste of what intelligence could do, but it wasn't enough. From its earliest days, the CIA understood something critical. The battlefield needed to be everywhere. It wasn't constrained to borders. To the CIA, the globe was a chessboard, and every country a potential piece to manipulate, influence, or control. This philosophy shaped its identity. Its role wasn't just to gather intelligence. It was to act, to intervene, to shape outcomes, to alter the political DNA of entire nations in ways that advanced American interests. And that mindset would define everything the CIA would become, everything it would do, and every shadow it would cast across world history. But before the CIA became infamous for its covert operations, it needed structure. Internal machinery built to handle missions ranging from the subtle to the extreme. At the top sits the director of the CIA, chosen by the president and trusted with some of the most sensitive information in the world. But the real power of the agency lies in its directorates, each functioning like a separate organ within a single body, yet working in unison to accomplish the agency's goals. The Directorate of Analysis is the brain, the part of the CIA responsible for piecing together raw intelligence from thousands of sources, turning chaos into clarity, and presenting polished intelligence reports to decision-makers, including the president. These are the analysts who live behind screens and documents, decoding patterns, detecting threats, and predicting events long before the public ever hears about them. This is the clandestine arm of the agency, the people who operate under deep cover in foreign nations, infiltrating organizations, recruiting assets, and carrying out missions that never appear on official records. Spies, case officers, covert teams. If the CIA were a movie, this is who you'd see on screen. But in reality, their work isn't glamorous. They gather intelligence, destabilize threats, and sometimes carry out missions that would be politically disastrous if exposed. The Directorate of Science and Technology is where innovation meets espionage. This division creates the tools that make modern intelligence possible. Advanced surveillance systems, satellite technologies, cyber espionage tools, and even biological or chemical detection mechanisms over the years. This directorate has been behind some of the CIA's most groundbreaking technological developments, many of which remain classified to this day. Supporting all of these is the Directorate of Support, which ensures everything runs smoothly behind the scenes: finance, logistics, medical teams, transportation, and the essential operational support that powers global missions. And finally, there's the Directorate of Digital Innovation, one of the most recent additions to the CIA. This modern unit focuses on cyber threats, digital espionage, hacking, and data warfare, reflecting the shifting landscape of global intelligence, where battles are fought not only on the ground, but through networks, algorithms, and digital footprints. But everything we've discussed so far, history, structure, departments, is only the skeleton of the CIA. They seek results, outcomes that serve American geopolitical interests regardless of the cost. One of the CIA's earliest and most defining black ops was Operation Ajax in Iran, 1953, when Iran's prime minister nationalized the country's oil industry, threatening Western economic interests. The CIA stepped in with Britain's MI6. Through propaganda, manipulation, staged riots, and political influence, the CIA engineered a coup that removed the prime minister and reinstated the Shah. It was a blueprint the CIA would use again and again, claiming victory not on the battlefield but in the shadows of public perception. Just a year later, the CIA replicated this strategy in Guatemala, when a democratically elected leader threatened American corporations. The agency orchestrated another covert overthrow. These two operations became the template for modern regime change strategies, demonstrating how soft influence, psychological operations, and covert action could reshape entire governments without deploying a single battalion. A failed effort to overthrow Fidel Castro. It exposed the limits of covert force and became a critical lesson in intelligence miscalculation. But for every failure, there were operations that shifted global power, like Operation Cyclone in the 1980s, where the CIA funded and trained Afghan fighters during the Soviet-Afghan War, helping push back Soviet influence. And then came the 21st century. After the attacks of 9/11, the CIA's power expanded at a historic level. Counterterrorism became the agency's main priority, leading to an era of black sites, enhanced interrogation, drone strike programs, and covert missions across the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. And if you want the full picture, if you want to understand how this agency operates, how its decisions ripple across continents and shape global events, then you're in the right place. The story of the CIA becomes even more compelling when we shift from its formation and philosophy to the machinery that keeps it functioning in the shadows. Understanding the agency is not just about recognizing its victories or scandals. It's about grasping how an organization built on secrecy maintains power across generations. Every intelligence agency in the world gathers information, but the CIA has mastered something far more strategic, shaping the environment in which that information matters. It builds alliances, manipulates narratives, destabilizes threats, and positions the United States to stay several moves ahead of its rivals. This approach has defined almost every major geopolitical confrontation of the last 75 years. To understand the agency's influence, you must first understand its internal architecture. Because the CIA isn't one monolithic entity. It's a collection of specialized worlds, each with its own culture, mission, and hierarchy. When people talk about the CIA, they often imagine spies in foreign nations, undercover agents infiltrating terrorist cells, or mysterious figures exchanging coded messages in dimly lit alleys. And yes, those people exist, but they make up only a fraction of the agency. The CIA's real power is that its departments operate like gears in a complex engine, each turning separately, yet all moving the machine forward with a single objective: protect American interests at any cost. Take the Directorate of Analysis. These analysts don't live in the field, but their influence is massive. They sift through surveillance reports, intercepted communications, satellite images, informant testimonies, financial data, cyber footprints, billions of pieces of information. Their job is to detect patterns before anyone else does. When a foreign nation begins moving troops, when a political alliance starts to crumble, when extremist activity spikes unexpectedly, analysts are the ones who sound the alarm. Their reports land directly on the desks of senior officials, shaping decisions that can lead to peace, sanctions, or even military action. In many cases, a single carefully constructed CIA analysis can influence the direction of U.S. foreign policy more than any speech or congressional debate. But while analysts interpret the world, the Directorate of Operations actively changes it. These field operatives are the backbone of the CIA's most iconic missions. Their work is dangerous, unpredictable, and morally complex. A case officer might spend years building trust with a foreign asset, pretending to be someone else entirely, hiding their identity even from friends or family. Their life becomes a performance, a daily act of deception performed not for personal gain, but for national strategy. These officers recruit informants, smuggle information, run surveillance networks, and execute missions that must stay in the shadows forever. They operate in embassies, conflict zones, and remote corners of the world where no official American presence exists. Supporting them is an ecosystem of covert teams, paramilitary units, special mission groups, and deep cover operatives who undertake missions the U.S. government can deny if something goes wrong. These groups often work alongside or in parallel with special forces like the Navy SEALs or Delta Force, blending military precision with espionage strategy. Their missions range from sabotage and extraction to direct action against high-value targets. And when they succeed, the world may never know. When they fail, their existence may be officially denied. This is where the CIA's covert power begins to take shape, through missions that bypass traditional diplomacy and create new realities on the ground. But nothing in the CIA's world operates without technology, and that's where the Directorate of Science and Technology steps in. Think of this division as the CIA's secret laboratory. From the earliest days of the Cold War, they were responsible for innovations that gave the U.S. intelligence edge. Miniaturized cameras hidden inside pens and lighters, insect-sized listening devices, advanced reconnaissance drones decades before they were public knowledge, and satellite imaging systems capable of reading license plates from space. Many technologies that today seem normal were once classified CIA breakthroughs. Even now, a significant portion of their work remains hidden behind layers of secrecy. cyber tools capable of penetrating hardened security systems, biometric tracking programs, and AI systems built to analyze global movement patterns. In recent years, the rise of cyberspace has introduced another dimension to intelligence warfare. Enter the Directorate of Digital Innovation, the CIA's newest frontier. Cyber espionage is now as critical as traditional espionage, with threats emerging from state-sponsored hackers, digital mercenaries, rogue groups, and AI-driven attacks. This directorate focuses on digital infiltration, offensive cyber operations, encryption breakthroughs, and cyber defense strategies. They work in a domain where a single breach could expose classified programs or disrupt national infrastructure. In many ways, cyber warfare has become the modern intelligence battleground, and the CIA has positioned itself at the center of this evolving landscape. But structure alone doesn't explain how the CIA became so influential worldwide. To understand that, we must look at how the agency uses its resources. The CIA doesn't just gather information, it acts on it. Covert operations, known internally as special activities or black ops, are the agency's most controversial yet defining capabilities. These missions blur the line between espionage and military action. They include psychological warfare campaigns, political manipulation, sabotage missions, targeted operations, and paramilitary interventions. These aren't operations you hear about on the news. They're conducted quietly, strategically, and often without congressional oversight or public knowledge. One of the CIA's most powerful tools is its ability to build influence networks in foreign nations. These networks might include politicians, business leaders, journalists, religious figures, or dissidents. The agency identifies individuals whose goals align with U.S. interests, then builds relationships that allow subtle manipulation of outcomes. When political instability arises, these networks can be activated, influencing elections, guiding public sentiment, or pushing policy decisions in directions favorable to American global strategy. Psychological warfare is another realm where the CIA has excelled. By controlling narratives, spreading propaganda, and shaping global perceptions, the agency can shift the direction of conflicts without firing a single shot. During the Cold War, they used media, literature, art, and cultural exchanges to influence foreign societies. And while methods have evolved, the core strategy remains the same. Control the story, and you control the outcome. This influence extends to black budget programs, projects so classified that even parts of the U.S. government don't know about them. These initiatives are funded through hidden channels and focus on emerging technologies, experimental weapons, deep-cover networks, and advanced surveillance systems. These black budgets allow the CIA to operate beyond the constraints of traditional oversight, giving them flexibility unmatched by most agencies in the world. But every action has consequences. The CIA's covert operations have shaped nations, toppled governments, and altered geopolitical landscapes, but they have also sparked controversy and ethical debate. Critics argue that the agency has sometimes acted without accountability, undermining democracy in the process. Supporters counter that these actions prevented global instability and protected American interests in an unpredictable world. The truth lies somewhere in the shadows, complex, layered, and morally ambiguous. Yet despite the secrecy, one thing is clear. The CIA remains one of the most influential organizations on the planet. Its decisions ripple across continents. Its missions influence alliances, conflicts, and political systems, and its legacy continues to shape the modern world in ways few people fully understand. As the CIA expanded its reach across continents and conflicts, the agency's identity evolved into something far more versatile and unpredictable than what its founders in 1947 had ever imagined. Intelligence gathering was no longer a matter of simply intercepting communications or recruiting informants. It had become a global chess match where every move influenced the stability of nations, shaped ideological currents, and redrew political boundaries. With each decade came new threats, communism, terrorism, cyber warfare, rogue states. And the CIA adapted relentlessly, transforming itself into a force capable of fighting wars without ever raising a flag. By the 1950s and 60s, the CIA had mastered the art of covert intervention. While the public saw diplomacy playing out on the world stage, behind the scenes, CIA operatives were engineering outcomes through precise, calculated actions. Elections were influenced not through ballots, but through intelligence assets planted in political parties, media outlets, and military institutions. When leaders posed threats to American interests, the agency acted swiftly, sometimes supporting peaceful transitions and other times orchestrating more dramatic ones. These actions were controversial, even within the agency, but they became defining chapters in CIA history. What's remarkable is the level of sophistication behind these interventions. These operations were not impulsive or chaotic. They were built from years of groundwork, cultivating contacts, studying cultural dynamics, mapping political structures, identifying pressure points, and predicting public reactions. Every move was rooted in deep analysis. The CIA understood something most agencies didn't. Power isn't seized. It's engineered. It's constructed quietly through influence networks, psychological manipulation, and strategic pressure applied at the right moment. And whenever public narratives shifted suddenly, whenever protests erupted, or governments realigned, it was often because the agency had already spent months, sometimes years, setting the stage. But the CIA's capabilities were not limited to political manipulation. During the Cold War, the psychological battlefield became just as important as physical territory. The Soviet Union used propaganda to project strength, unity, and ideological purity. The CIA responded by launching cultural warfare, promoting literature, art, music, and films that championed Western values. They funded writers, supported academic institutions, and influenced global media channels. Many of the cultural movements that shaped modern Western identity were subtly amplified by intelligence efforts. It was soft power made powerful through strategy, yet nothing defined CIA operations more than its interplay with secrecy. The agency thrived on layers of deception, layers of deniability, layers of compartmentalization. Most operatives knew only fragments of larger missions. Analysts received only the data relevant to their tasks. Field officers had no visibility into operations beyond their assignment. This structure protected the agency but also created internal tension. Even within Langley headquarters, individuals worked in silos, piecing together puzzles without ever seeing the full image. It was a world where loyalty meant accepting that you would never know everything, even when your decisions shaped global outcomes. As global threats evolved, so did the tools required to counter them. The 1980s ushered in an era of technological transformation. Satellites captured real-time images. Surveillance devices shrank to unimaginable sizes. Cryptography became a battlefield of its own. The CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology pushed boundaries constantly, creating technologies years ahead of anything available publicly. Intelligence analysts gained access to digital footprints, intercepted signals, and high-altitude reconnaissance. Suddenly, the CIA could watch troop movements in remote regions, track nuclear facilities, and monitor global communications with unprecedented precision. However, these advancements were merely the foundation for what came next. The rise of terrorism in the 1990s and early 2000s forced the CIA into a new kind of war. A war without borders, uniforms, or clear rules. Intelligence failures leading up to major attacks reshaped the agency's priorities overnight. What followed was one of the most aggressive expansions of covert capability in CIA history. Black sites were established. Rendition programs intensified. Covert operatives embedded themselves deep within militant networks. Drone warfare became a central strategy. It was no longer enough to gather information. The CIA had to act on it instantly, often in real time, hunting threats before they materialized. This shift blurred ethical lines more than ever before. Critics argued the agency overstepped boundaries, violated rights, and operated without oversight. Supporters countered that these measures prevented countless attacks and dismantled dangerous organizations. Inside the CIA, operatives faced moral dilemmas they could never speak about. They knew their actions shaped the safety of millions, but the cost was often personal. Long deployments, psychological strain, and the burden of operating in morally gray zones. Espionage wasn't glamorous. It was demanding, lonely, and filled with decisions that would haunt operatives long after missions ended. As digital technology advanced, the battlefield evolved once again. Cyber warfare became the most invisible and potent weapon of modern conflict. Intelligence wasn't just stored in documents or physical locations anymore. It lived in servers, encrypted channels, and digital clouds. The CIA responded by creating the Directorate of Digital Innovation. This division specialized in cyber infiltration, digital manipulation, AI-driven intelligence assessments, and offensive cyber operations. They could penetrate networks, disrupt communications, and conduct surveillance with stealth unimaginable in previous eras. Cyber operatives didn't need disguises or diplomatic covers. Their operations took place behind screens, but the impact was global. A successful hack could uncover nuclear plans, expose terrorist communication networks, or cripple hostile infrastructure. The digital age gave the CIA a new dimension, one that was silent, immediate, and extraordinarily powerful. But even with all this evolution, one thing remained unchanged: the CIA's reliance on human intelligence. Technology can collect data, but only people can interpret motives, loyalties, fears, and intentions. That's why human assets, informants, remain the agency's most valuable resource. Recruiting an informant is an art form. It requires understanding psychology, cultural nuance, and the subtle vulnerabilities that shape human behavior. A skilled CIA case officer can turn an enemy into an ally, a loyalist into a defector, or a government official into a secret asset. These relationships can last years, sometimes decades, and their impact can alter the course of history. This human element is what truly distinguishes the CIA from other agencies. It isn't just a machine driven by technology or strategy. It's an organization powered by people. People who make sacrifices, take risks, and operate in silence. People whose names will never appear in history books, yet whose actions shape pivotal global events. When the world praises diplomacy or military victories, the unseen hands behind those outcomes often belong to operatives who will never be known. And that's the paradox of the CIA's existence. Its success depends on secrecy, but its influence shapes public reality. Its failures are exposed, its victories hidden. Its operatives fight wars they can never acknowledge, save lives they can never claim credit for, and carry burdens they can never share. The agency walks a tightrope between necessity and controversy, morality and strategy, truth and deception. In the deepest corridors of CIA power, where doors are locked by both steel and silence, there exists a category of missions so secret that even seasoned operatives whisper about them with caution. These are the black operations, the covert actions conducted without attribution, without diplomatic fingerprints, without any trail leading back to the United States. They are the operations that shape geopolitical outcomes before the world even realizes. Something has shifted, and while Hollywood often glamorizes this world, the reality is far darker, more calculated, and more consequential than any fiction could ever portray. Black ops are born out of necessity, not ambition. They emerge when threats cannot be confronted through diplomacy, economic pressure, or open military force. They operate in the shadows because the stakes are too high, the risks severe, and the political fallout too explosive. Inside CIA headquarters, in rooms shielded from surveillance and protected by layers of classified protocols, senior officials decide which missions cross the threshold into the realm of deniability. Once approved, these operations become ghosts, no paper trails, no official records. No public acknowledgement. They exist only in encrypted briefings, whispered conversations, and the memories of those who execute them. The operatives selected for such missions are unlike any others. They come from diverse backgrounds: military special forces, linguists, hackers, cultural experts, deep cover officers who have spent years living alternate identities. What unites them isn't just skill, it's psychological resilience. They are individuals capable of operating in morally ambiguous zones without hesitation, understanding that failure doesn't simply cost lives. It can reshape global alliances, ignite wars, or destabilize entire regions. These operatives carry the weight of invisible consequences. Missions that the world will never know prevented disaster. Many black operations throughout history remain buried, sealed behind redacted files that may never see daylight. But some leaks, declassified fragments, and geopolitical anomalies offer glimpses into the scale of these covert actions. There were operations to sabotage weapons programs in hostile nations, to intercept enemy scientists before they reach critical breakthroughs, to manipulate black markets that funneled money into terrorist networks. There were missions to remove dangerous warlords from power, to destabilize militant organizations before they consolidated influence, and to infiltrate shadow economies that operated beyond the reach of any law or government. One of the most critical aspects of these operations is psychological warfare. A successful black op doesn't always involve eliminating a target. Sometimes it's about creating fear, uncertainty, or division within enemy ranks, planting false intelligence that causes rival factions to turn against one another, manipulating the financial networks that sustain extremist groups, intercepting communications in ways that make leaders doubt the loyalty of their closest allies. When done correctly, psychological manipulation can dismantle entire organizations without a single shot fired. It is silent, efficient, and devastatingly effective. But with every operation, there is a cost. Operatives live lives that are almost unrecognizable to those outside this world. Their relationships are distant, their identities fractured. Many spend years in deep cover, adopting cultures, languages, and habits so convincingly that they begin to lose fragments of themselves. They operate in environments where trust is a liability, where a single mistake can mean exposure. Every meeting, every coded message, every glance on a crowded street carries the potential for disaster. This psychological strain leaves marks, scars that remain long after missions close. Inside Langley, analysts monitoring these operations often experience their own form of burden. They work around the clock, decoding intercepted signals, updating operative locations, reviewing satellite data in real time. Their decisions must be precise, because one inaccurate interpretation can lead to fatal consequences. Analysts rarely receive recognition, yet they form the backbone of every successful op. They are the quiet guardians of the intelligence battlefield as global conflicts evolved into hybrid wars, combining cyber attacks, misinformation, and traditional espionage. The CIA adapted once more. Black Ops expanded into cyberspace, where digital infiltration could disrupt enemy infrastructure, infiltrate encrypted servers, and expose secret communications. Cyber operatives became just as valuable as field agents. They had the power to cripple national grids, leak sensitive documents, and dismantle propaganda networks without ever stepping outside a secure facility. Yet in this digital age, the danger became more unpredictable. Sophisticated hostile actors emerged: rogue hackers, foreign intelligence services, extremist organizations using encrypted technology. Cyber battles became invisible wars waged across continents, with each side probing the digital defenses of the other, searching for vulnerabilities. And behind many successful operations on this front, the CIA's digital units played silent roles that the public never saw. What makes the CIA so unique is its adaptability. Through every era, Cold War, post-9/11s, the rise of cyber warfare, the agency reshaped itself constantly. It learned from failures, revised its doctrines, and prepared for the next threat before the world even recognized it. The CIA's strength has never been numbers or firepower. It has always been intelligence, information, foresight, strategy, and the ability to move faster than any adversary. But for all its influence, the agency has also faced intense criticism. Black Ops often walk a thin line between protection and overreach. Debates arise about legality, morality, and accountability. The secrecy surrounding these missions makes oversight difficult, and mistakes, when they occur, can fuel public distrust. Yet within intelligence circles, one fact remains undeniable. Many threats that never reached American soil were quietly neutralized in places the public never heard about, by people whose names they will never know. And that's the paradox at the core of the CIA's identity. It is an agency misunderstood by many, feared by some, respected by others, but essential in a world where unseen dangers evolve constantly. While politicians and world leaders stand at podiums debating policies, the CIA works in silence, preventing crises before they become headlines. They navigate a battlefield of shadows where the enemies are invisible, where loyalty is fleeting, and where the wrong move can shift the trajectory of entire nations. The story of the CIA is not a story of heroes or villains. It is a story of necessity, a story of people operating in a world that demands actions others cannot take, sacrifices others cannot make, and decisions others cannot bear. It is a world built on secrecy, driven by intelligence, and defined by missions that will remain forever hidden. And this journey into the covert world of the CIA is only the beginning. There are operations so daring they read like fiction, missions buried so deep they have changed how wars are fought, rivalries between intelligence agencies that shaped entire eras, and secrets so explosive that they were locked away for generations. If you're truly fascinated by this world of espionage, black ops, undercover agents, and hidden wars shaping our modern world, then you've just scratched the surface. Make sure you subscribe to Spycraft Chronicles, your go-to channel for real-world intelligence operations revealed like never before. Hit the like button, drop a comment with the next agency or covert mission you want broken down, and share this video with someone who loves Spycraft as much as you do. Your support doesn't just help the channel. It brings more untold stories from the shadows to the spotlight. Stay alert, stay curious, and remember, in the world of intelligence, the most powerful operations are the ones the world never hears about.